Evening, everybody. Okay. Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. My name is Manjiri McCoy. I am the first champion for Amazon and Amazon in the community, which means I organize volunteer events with Amazon and First Robotics teams. Um, I am an 11-year judging veteran for the Pacific Northwest. I've been a judge and judge advisor for over a decade. And joining me is Chris Price, who's also from Amazon, and he has been my co-judge for many years now. Um, Hi, Chris. And we have Jason Cheng, also from Amazon. If I'm missing anybody else, please introduce yourself. Hi, Jason. Is there anybody else? Chelsea, are you there? Chelsea was having car trouble, so Chelsea might not be here. Um, all right, let's get started with FRC judging tips. So as a judge, one of the things that I love to do is to help team prepare to do their best, because we want to give everybody a fair chance and we want everyone to be prepared and present their very best, because we are here for you, and we like seeing teams that are prepared. All right. So first, a disclaimer, this is not an official first presentation, and all the opinions are our personal opinions. They don't represent the opinion of First or Amazon. And in case of any conflict between anything I say and between any official First document or resource, please understand that the first document or resource is the correct thing, because the rules can change as the season goes on, and any information I present today may be outdated. So the first thing I want to point you at is that the official resource for the at-home challenges, it's a manual, it's 43 or 46 pages. Read the pages, like seriously read all the pages and know the rules. So the first tip of being prepared for judging is knowing what the rules are. Many times in previous tournaments, I've gone to judge teams and we wear a blue shirt. All FRC judges wear a blue shirt which says FRC and judge on the side. And we have teams looking at us like, who are you? Why are you asking me all these questions? And then we have to explain to them that we are judging and there are actually awards, and they could win something. And it surprises me when they're surprised. But don't be surprised. We're not here. We're not judgmental judges. We're just here to give you awards. Okay, so let's talk about judged awards. So there's a few things that are different this year, right? We are not going to have judging in the pits like we normally do, because there are no pits. We have to do everything virtually. So we have, a group of awards, based on infinite recharge at home, which is based on the 2020 game. And I'll talk a little bit about more later. And then we have a game design challenge, which is not held in typical years, but it's a really great way to get teams engaged virtually and kind of reward them for doing well. And it's fun to have teams on the other side where they're designing a game rather than having a game designed for them. So like kind of flipping that around a little bit is going to be a lot of fun. You get to be in charge. It's nice. And then we have a first innovation challenge, which is also not held in typical years, but again, lends itself very well to the virtual format. And then we have the Dean's List and Chairman's, which I have done virtually last year, and we will talk about those. And there are some areas where awards are given, but they are not judged by us in the terms of we don't ask questions and expect answers. So the skills competition is something that kind of mimics what happens on the field. And skills competitions are not judged by FRC blue shirt judges. And they would, I don't know this for sure, but they would probably be judged by referees and scorekeepers, because it's about the game and it's about the rules and it's about how something plays the game. As far as I know. Yes.
I can confirm that as a ref, I have been asked to judge the game design challenge and the innovation challenge. So they are pulling from the scorekeepers and referees for that.
Right. Anything to do with actually playing the game, I would expect would involve referees and scorekeepers too. All right. Woody Flowers is not going to be covered by me. it is a judged award, but it does not judge students or teams. It judges coaches and mentors, and I don't have any experience with Woody Flowers, so I will not be answering any questions for that because I don't know the information. The safety animation and digital animation awards are also judged differently. They're not judged by blue shirt judges. The safety or animation award has in the past been judged by underwriters. I don't know what they're going to do this year. And the digital animation is also not judged by blue shirt judges. And there are some excellent resources here. There's a couple of links, and I'll share these slides with you later, so you don't have to copy down what's on the slide. I will send them out to the Droids, and then they can distribute them. So make sure to use the resources and learn about the awards, because they tell you what each award is and what the award criteria is. And once you know what the award criteria is, you kind of know how to prepare to present for that award. Okay. So let's talk about the infinite recharge at home. So we have awards on autonomous, which is typically a part of the Machine Creativity and Innovation Awards in a regular year, MCI awards. We have excellence in engineering, which is also an MCI award. Industrial design and quality awards. These are all machine awards. And we have a rookie game changer, which is kind of similar to the rookie all-star, which is held in traditional years, but not exactly the same. So let's talk about submission. You have to submit materials for these awards. And the first thing you need to know is, make sure to submit things by the deadline, because FIRST is very, very strict about deadlines. And if you miss the deadline for whatever reason, and I've had heartbreaking stories of chairman's people and dean's list candidates who didn't get their submission in on time because of difficulties. Don't wait until the last minute. Please don't do that. Expect technical difficulties. Give yourself some buffer to make sure that your submissions go in and are accepted. So the submissions for Infinite Recharge, we need 2 adult mentor emails and make sure they're current. So earlier this year, I had to do Dean's List and Chairman's judging, and we only communicate with coaches. We cannot communicate with students because of IPP. And we send schedules to the mentors, and then the mentors have to communicate that to their students and make sure the students are available for the interview during their scheduled time. I got mentor emails for mentors who hadn't mentored the team in years. I have called people who have refused to take my phone calls because they don't know who I am and they're not expecting my phone call. And then I've had to leave voice messages and then, hope that somebody listens to them so I can interview the student I'm supposed to interview. And I do not have contact information for any student or or a team, only mentors. So please make sure they're current. It's really important in a virtual world that I can't send people to chase you down. I can't chase anybody down in the virtual world. Make sure that the time zone is clear, what time zone you are in, so that the scheduling can be done clearly with the time. You have to upload at least 1 and up to 3 images of your robot, and there are some specifications you'll see in the document. In your main guidelines document. And there's an optional video of robot. Well, it says root. Ooh, excuse me. It was supposed to be robot. For up to 3 minutes in the standard format, and a 1-page flyer about the robot. My recommendation is if you are in any way able to submit this optional information, do it, because we like to get a little bit more information, but make sure it's relevant. Show your robot doing something. Interesting or something that you want us to see. Then the interview process is 12 minutes total. You have 7 minutes presentation and 5 minutes Q&A. And we're also very strict about the time because we have somebody lined up for the next slot and we have to keep on time and be on time. We need an adult mentor to be present, but they can't speak. They're there as an observer to, kind of watch it and give you feedback. The document recommends no more than 5 team members. Presenters can share their screen so we can see. Recording is prohibited and expect technical difficulties. So we have seen that. Let me go back here. I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about the awards. So when we are talking about machine awards, In a typical year, what happens is we interview the students and ask them questions to kind of determine their eligibility for the award. For the autonomous award, we need to have the machine do something autonomously without being controlled. For those of you who have come from FLL, you know FLL is fully autonomous. Once it goes, it's gone and it's doing whatever it's doing. But FRC is different. And for all these awards, what we need is for the machine to work. I have never given a machine award to a robot that is non-functional or that fails inspection or that, does the robot in the judging have to be, I'm just going to take a question, have to be the same as the robot used in the skills challenge? In typical years, yes, because we judge in the pits and that is the robot you would be using in your skills challenge. If you have, I would not expect them to be significantly different. I would expect the robot to be judged to be the one that's performing the skills.
So
If
I
your
was taking a
robot,
look at that in the rules. So this
yeah,
for the skills challenge, it does have to be a legal infinite recharge robot. I don't think there's a specific competition saying it has to be the same one that you're using in the other one, but it still does have to be legal to
okay.
use in the infinite recharge game. So unless you plan on building two robots, you may want to try and use the same one.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And if you bring me if you present a robot that's 20 feet tall, that's not going to qualify because that doesn't meet the requirements. Or if it's 200 pounds, um, those kinds of things would make you ineligible for the award because you're not meeting the minimum requirements. But other than that, we're pretty flexible and we will consider all robots that are functional and do something for the awards. But as Jason said, they do have to meet the requirements. So for autonomous award, your robot has to be able to do something autonomously. When you're talking about excellence in engineering, think about how it's the engineering process and how you've engineered things in a systematic and thoughtful way, rather than putting things together and saying, hey, let's put stuff together and see if it works. The Industrial Design Award, typically, it's form and function, which means if you have a robot that's performing really well, but it's really messy with messy wiring and it looks, it looks like it's going to fall apart, you might score lower on that. If you have a robot that is beautiful in form and function, then that would impress the judges more. Using CAD is a good way to improve the form and function of your robot, because if you use CAD tools and do a design before you build, your build's usually better. For quality award, in typical years, a quality award, what we look for is, judges also go and watch matches. So we have to validate what you're telling us in the pits with what is happening in the field. And we only interview students. Mentors are not allowed to speak. We don't take any information from mentors, parents, friends, family, or anything. So for a quality award, it has to work. It has to work consistently and repeatedly. What does quality mean to you? Okay. Yes. Okay, so that's for Infinite Reacher. And for Game Design Challenge, this is new. So there are some rules about you preparing a game, like an FRC game, designing the game. And we have some awards attributed for that. The Designers Award, a Concept Award, an Imagery Award, which is typically a team attributes award in a regular competition. And I can talk a little bit about imagery. It's about the look and feel of your team, your robot, and your pit. Are they consistent? It's like branding. It's almost like a marketing award. What is your team brand? And are you representing the brand of your team in all your visuals? Your team, your uniform visuals, your robot visuals, and your pit visuals. And creativity award is also typically awarded as part of machine creativity innovation in regular years. And we look for something that is unique either in gameplay. Now, creativity is kind of funny because in a regular year, you could also win this award for a creative strategy, a game strategy, um, not just for a creative machine part, but also for a game strategy. Yeah, Jason, do you have anything to say? Any input here?
I think you covered most of it.
Okay. And then we have the Engineering Design Award. Again, it's about your design process. Again, using CAD, using tools, proving that you've actually had a design process and not just, done things at the last minute is helpful. Yeah, I'm going to take a question here. Are we judging for a particular award or are we just chat with the team? There are probably, we are going to answer this at the end. Chris Price is going to answer, or Chris, you can answer this now if you want to ask about, answer the question. That would be fine too.
Sure. So there's different groups of judges. We kind of get paired up in teams, and we usually have a specific area that we're focusing on each time we go out to ask questions. And then after we finish talking to as many teams as we can, then we go back to the judge room and we meet with the other judges, and everyone kind of talks about which teams they think might be nominated for which awards. And then after that, we have some more time to go back out and talk to the teams again, see if there's more information that we need to collect to figure out which team is the most qualified for a certain award. And then we meet back up again at the end and kind of collaborate to make our final decisions for the awards.
But there is no set time that, we all wear blue shirts. You won't be able to tell looking at us that, oh, is this judge interviewing for a machine award or is this judge interviewing for imagery? I mean, experienced teams can tell by the kinds of questions we're asking what we're kind of interviewing for. But be prepared. We don't give you time slots when we're doing pit interviews. I mean, this is different for virtual. Of course, you'll have a time slot. But for pit interviews, we don't have time slots and we can come and ask you questions. So be prepared to answer them. And as I mentioned, we only ask students questions. We don't interview mentors. We don't interview parents, friends. So we want to talk to the kids. It's their game. It's not the mentor's game. So that's the fun part. Any other questions? We have a lot of Q&A at the end, and I'll definitely cover that. But okay, here's the game design. So those are the game design awards. Some of them are new, some of them are not. They're kind of related to what we do in regular years. And the game design challenge also requires a submission. And again, please make sure to submit on time and give yourselves enough time for the submission. We don't want any team to be disqualified because they didn't make their submission on time. It breaks every judge's heart because we want every team to be able to present and be eligible. Again, you need the mentor emails, make sure they're current, time zone, and make sure you keep to the limit of the write-up, and be specific. If it's asking you for the game overview and it's a 500-word limit, make sure you're talking about the game overview in 500 words. Don't go off on a tangent and talk about something else. And I've seen those essays too, and they're writing about nice things, but they're not answering the question. And then it's very difficult to determine their award eligibility if they haven't answered the question. Description of the notable field elements, the description of the expected robot actions. All of you have seen game rules. All of you have seen kickoff videos. You can give an optional 2-minute video of the game. And in my mind, that would be something similar to a game animation that's released at the start of the season, or even a teaser. And you can give 4 pages of supplementary information. Here's a reference for the game design challenge. And my personal advice, or what I would like to see, is that if you're going to use the supplemental information, use it and tell the story behind the story. What made you arrive at this game? What was your thought process to arrive at this game? And to me, having judged 11 years, the best games are the games where a rookie team can also feel successful and an experienced team can really showcase their skills. if the game is so difficult that it only works for experienced teams, then that is not inclusive, and inclusion is one of our core values. I like games that can actually separate out the skill sets of the experienced teams, but still let the rookie teams do something successfully. That's important, because success is important to give them confidence to come back. Yeah. And I don't recommend using the pages for writing rules and scoring and things like that. We are judges. I don't know, Jason, if that's something you're expecting as a referee.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes. In the game design challenge, supplemental information, is there anything you'd like to see as a referee? Would you expect to see detailed scoring or anything? Yeah.
I haven't done any official judging yet, but from my interpretation of the rules and what I've gotten based on the information, supplementary information is to be used to kind of support the whatever you're submitting. It's not, unfortunately, an extension of your overview or anything. Rather, it's meant to kind of, if you have any pictures that you want to give us, if there's any like field drawings, if you have like a general decision tree that you want to share with us, that's the stuff that should be included in there. There's not anything specifically we're looking for in there. It's more of an opportunity of maybe we missed something that you want to give us. We'll give you a few pages to do that.
Yeah. There's a couple of information here, supplemental information. The first question is, what is supplementary information? It's vague, as I said. You have 4 pages where you can give us supplemental information. And Jason's given you some examples of things that you might put in, and I've given you some examples, and our perspectives are different because he's a referee and I'm a judge. Don't exceed 4 pages, and don't make your font tiny and stuff in a lot of information. And those are also in the rules, that it has to be legible. If you use a super tiny font, I wear glasses. If you write super tiny font and fill the 4 pages, I'm not likely to read it, honestly. Okay. The next question we had here is, will every IR at home submission have an interview or only a selected few? That's a great question. I don't know. In the past,
I got it.
At least for, yeah.
Sorry, I replied in the chat. All successful complete submissions will be reviewed and offered an interview.
Thank you, Jason. That is what I would expect, because we have interviewed every chairman's and every dean's list application that has made it on time. Yes. We have not, we want to interview you. Yeah.
Yes. The only exception, and we will still sometimes offer interviews, is if you've submitted some incomplete information, or if you've submitted us like literally just blank pages. We still may reach out to you and kind of get some details on that, but every successful submission should have a judging interview, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, and I also share with you that don't make a late submission and then write to your judge advisor saying, please interview me. Even if it's your mentor's fault, I'm sorry first to slap me on the wrist if I do that. I have in the past interviewed one team from Oregon, even though their submission did not make it because the team had suffered a personal tragedy and they were not able to submit on time. And I knew that I would get my hand slapped, but I'm here for the kids. I'm not here for First Robotics. And I said, I will get my hand slapped. I'm going to interview that team. That is the only one and only time I've broken the rules, but otherwise I don't. But those were exceptional circumstances. All right, and so the game design challenge also has an interview. Again, stick to the time, practice and stick to the time. You'll have 7 minutes for presentation, 5 minutes for Q&A. Again, one adult mentor needs to be present in the virtual interview, but they are not supposed to speak or answer any questions. They can offer translation services. So forgive me if I missed that the last time. If the mentor needs to translate, for example, you have a student who requires ASL, but the judge does not know ASL, yes, the mentor can obviously provide the translation services. Or if the student is speaking a language that the mentor does not understand, that the judge does not understand, those kinds of services, but they can't answer the questions themselves. Yeah. All right. And then the Innovation Challenge, which is a kind of a standalone award. And this is not, again, a typical award. I think of it as somewhat a combination of an FLL project and the Entrepreneurship Award. So the Entrepreneurship Award is kind of a business award that's given to FRC teams in regular years, and we judge for it. And um, for those of you who have come from FLL, you know what an FLL presentation is. You have a real world problem that you have to take and you have to solve. But because this is FRC, it takes it up a step. Think of an FRC team as a business. And I really need you to think of it as a business even outside of judging. The most successful FRC team, the most successful FRC teams are the ones that have sponsors that can establish long, good relationships with their sponsors so that the team can continue year over year. The budget of an FRC team can be anywhere from $7,000 for a rookie team to $35,000 to $50,000 for a team that has done a really good job with sponsors and business. So I have seen a huge variety, but many FRC teams start up and then they die because they cannot sustain the funds. Sustaining funds is very important for an FRC team because the cost is so high that it's impossible for parents to just pay it, or at least for most parents to just pay it. So think about that. An FRC team is a business, and think about it that way. There's the engineering side, and then there's the marketing, imagery, sponsorship, business side. That's important. So when you think about this innovation challenge, imagine that you're a business and you have an idea and you're making a pitch, like making a pitch to Shark Tank or making a pitch to venture capitalists trying to get funding for your idea. So you have the problem and the opportunity. What is your business model for solving the problem? The impact of your innovation design and a business pitch. You can watch Shark Tank videos if you want. With the permission of your mentors and parents, and see how that works. I don't have any more information about this because, as I said, this is new and it's not something I've judged before. Yeah. So, and let's go next. And you have an initial submission where you have a project title and your project description in 10 words. An executive summary, solution, technologies used. Again, answer the questions and stay within the word limits. And here's your interview. This interview is slightly different, right? Because it's a pitch, it's a business pitch. So you have a 2-minute pitch, 3-minute presentation, and 10 minutes for questions and answers. So it's very Q&A heavy, and that's where we will get most of our information from you. We use your initial submissions to kind of prepare questions, but we might come up with more questions based on your pitch and presentation. The rest of it is the same. Really think about it as your team is a business. Okay, and then if you are an innovation challenge semi-finalist, you will have to submit some more things. And this is all in the document. I've just got it out of the same, the game document. You'll have a logo, you'll have, you'll have to submit a video description. You'll have to flesh out your impact design business model and make it more polished and professional. And there's some other optional items that you could submit. Okay. Then I'm going to talk about the Dean's List. The Dean's List award is the only individual award that is given for FRC, and it's given to a student who is a sophomore or a junior in high school. And we have a submission. The mentor makes a Dean's List submission, making a case as to why the student is deserving for a Dean's List award. All of you are great. All of you are smarter than I am. I love reading all your submissions, but we can only choose one or two in the district model. So there are some award resources. So we suggest that your mentor read the award resources. And I also want to point you to the Amazon leadership principles. So the Amazon leadership principles are what we in Amazon interview on. And although all of them may not be it's applicable to high school students. Many of them are. So you can go and have a look at them. We have a 5 to 7 minute interview. And what do I look for? We have seen, as I said, as an 11-year interviewer, I see teams over and over again. I've seen the kids grow up, graduate, come back and become mentors for teams. But we know the teams, at least in the Pacific Northwest, when I interview in person, I know the teams, I know the mentors. What I don't like to see is mentors who are lazy and are copying and pasting last year's essay and submitting it this year and changing the student's name. And I've seen that, and I don't like it. Every student is unique. And if your mentor is doing you a disservice by copying and pasting last year's essay and submitting it as your essay, yeah, find another mentor to do your submission for you. We interview for both technical competency and leadership skills, and you can read about the leadership skills here. I expect that any student who has been nominated for Dean's List has both technical and leadership competencies. And the interviews are 5 to 7 minutes, and we try and stick to the time. Yeah, so that is for Dean's List. And you'll find a lot of answers in the resources. The Chairman's Award is a team award, right? The Chairman's Award is given to a team that has done that has sustaining impact on their community. I believe the minimum qualification is that they have to be rookie teams are not eligible for chairmans. I think they have to be around for 2 years, and that's the minimum requirement. We have given chairmans to a team that is only 3 years old because of their impact on their community. I've given links here to resources for Chairman's Award. And there's an essay that needs to be submitted that asks for specific information. And the feedback I get from other chairman's judges is also, oh, why can't they just answer the questions? So read the questions carefully and make sure your answers are actually answering the questions. And that helps us greatly in determining eligibility. The other thing I like to see in chairman's essays are timelines. By that, I mean, don't say, instead of saying, we started this program many years ago, and then, a little while after that, we expanded it by doing this. Instead of that, say, we started the program in 2015. In late 2018, we expanded the program by doing this, because that sets a timeline in our minds as to how your team is progressing with their community events and community activities and how they're growing and expanding. An FRC team, the students in an FRC team turn over every 4 years because we have junior, somebody coming in as a freshman and then they stay with the team for 4 years, but then they're gone. And what I look for in Chairman's Awards, for the most part, of course, there are exceptions. For the most part, I look for, can they sustain it? And this is also where your team as a business comes in. A team can sustain itself if it gets funds. It can support its community if it finds a way to fundraise. And yes, some teams have advantages because they're in urban areas, metro areas where there's lots of businesses that they can connect with and get money. But in a virtual world, you can still reach out and get sponsors and do your best. Again, we do look for longevity when it comes to programs that are running and are successful and can be expanded. It's difficult for a team to do that if they're struggling financially. And I'll just put that out there. It's just how it is. And we have a interview with 7 minutes presentation and 5 minutes questions and answers. All right, so we have come to the Q&A section, and we're going to go through all these questions and answers that were pre-submitted. But if you have any more, please type them in the chat and I'll get to them later. Okay, so I think Chris has answered the first two about, the judges, how they come by and, how is judging done. Do you have anything else to add, Chris, to the first two questions? Is there anything else you would like to say that hasn't been said?
Not really. Maybe there's a description online somewhere of the qualifications for the different awards, right?
Yeah, And I have provided a link in the presentation.
So
Yeah.
that might be one other tip, is just like review those, and when the judges are asking you questions, you might be able to kind of tell which awards they're most interested in at a certain time based on the criteria that you read for the different awards. So it's good to know those criteria ahead of time.
Now the next question is, are there rubrics in FRC? No. Our awards are kind of subjective, and we also judge only based on the teams that are present at the event. We can't compare teams at this event to teams at that event. There are no rubrics because FRC has a lot of variety. Every time I go into the pits to judge, I see all these different robots that are trying to solve the same problems, but there's like a huge amount of variety in what I see, which is fun and exciting. And so we don't really have a rubrics. I don't have anything like a FLL where I'm grading 1, 2, 3, 4, the meets or exceeds or anything like that. There isn't any rubrics. What we do is we take pictures, we take notes, we interview the students. It's important for you to understand that if you want us to know something, you have to tell us. If you don't tell us, it never happened. So for example, if I interview you and then I go back and I'm eating lunch and, I have a parent come and say, did you see my kid's robot? That robot can bake a cake. And I'm like, they didn't say they could bake a cake. I mean, that's cool, but they didn't tell me that. And I can't consider that information. If there was a cake baking award and you didn't tell me that your robot could bake a cake, you are not eligible for the cake baking award. I do have match observers sitting on the field observing. Their input is valid. So if they actually see your robot baking a cake, they can come and tell me, yes, the robot baked a cake, and I can consider that information because they're official match observers, official referees, but I can't take that word from a parent or a coach. So it has to come from some official source. I would much prefer it come from the students, but yes, if we see them do something, and if I have a match observer come and tell me that the Droids robot can bake a cake, I'll be like, awesome, I want a slice. I'm gonna go send some judges to the pits to interview them and ask them about how their robot's baking a cake. So there will be follow-up questions if we see something on the field that you didn't talk about. We're very, very thorough. We try and be as thorough as we can. Are long-standing teams judged more critically? Is Chelsea there? Chelsea is having car trouble, so Chelsea might not be there. I'll take that question. No, long-standing teams are not judged more critically. There are separate rookie awards for rookie teams that long-standing teams don't qualify for because we don't want to show the rookie team some love. They're doing it for the first time, and it might be a little difficult. But as I said, the students on a team turnover. Every 4 years, you won't see a student be on the team for more than 4 years. So if a team has been around for 15 years, it doesn't mean the kids on the team have been there for 15 years, at least I hope not. There might be more expectations in the chairman's interview because of the FRC team is a long-standing team and has been able to sustain itself for many years. We want to see that represented in that essay. Like, how are you sustaining yourself and what are you doing for your community since you've been around for many years? I would say pit interviews, no. Chairman's, maybe, just because that's kind of what the chairman's award tends to be. So I hope that answers your question.
Can I throw in one quick comment on that, Manji?
Yeah.
I also, and this kind of goes back to something that you already said before, about like if in the case where a mentor submitted the same letter that they had submitted the previous year, there's some awards, like especially the ones that have to do with like the team's involvement in the community, where a team might have started a really amazing community program and they might win some award for that the year that they started. But then like the next year, if their presentation to try to get that same award is kind of just saying, yeah, we did this thing last year and we did a little bit more on it this year, but if the judges, there is usually some consistency among the judges, and if they know that your team already got an award for something that you did the previous year, that may factor into their decision as to whether or not they want to give you that same award again. So like demonstrating that you've done something new that year is something that like a longstanding team would want to keep in mind when they're thinking about their eligibility for different awards, I think.
Yeah. So, you can build on something you've done the previous year, but it has to be something significant and meaningful, right? Yeah, so chairman's is the only one I would say yes, sort of. We do expect more from teams that are able to sustain themselves over a long term. For the chairman's presentation, is it better to adopt a more formal style of presenting, or can we have fun with it? I have seen all kinds of chairman's presentations. It's entirely up to you. The critical piece is give us the information that you want us to have. Again, if you didn't tell us, it never happened. So make sure, however you're presenting it, we've had students in costumes, we've had students in kits, presenting skits. We've had students in, suits. It's all good. I'm looking for information. If I get the information that helps me assess your eligibility and answers all my questions, we are good. It does not have to be, but costumes and things like that, props are not required. It's entirely up to you. We will accept anything.
I know I'm just attending this meeting, but could I share something really quick under that question?
Go ahead.
One thing that we've been told a number of different times from different judges when we've gone to the chairman's chats at like Worlds and stuff like that, to your point, a lot of them have said they're a lot of fun, but don't let your theme or your kitsch overtake your presentation to the point where all the judges remember is that you had funny costumes and not anything you said. So if it starts to become a point where you're wasting the precious time you have doing something funny that doesn't say anything about your team, then don't do it.
Yeah, I would always like to point out, especially for the chairmans, everything you should bring in the room and everything you should do should be there for a point, whether it's to make you comfortable, get across a message. I know one of the recent chairman things Exploding Bacon, they bring in a person dressed as a pig. That's their thing for their team. So there should be a point to what you're doing. And the point can be to make you more comfortable and get the message across better. But like, don't do things just to do things in the chairman's. That's not the time for that.
Yeah, and to repeat all that, we are trying to get information from you. You need to convey information that is pertinent to the award. If the costume helps you to do that, go for the costume. The costume detracts from that, don't do it. Because in the end, you need to get that information across to the judges and they need to remember it. We take lots of notes, but we see a lot of themes. And you need to get us to remember the information you want us to remember. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next set here. How can we still present impressive submissions for award when outreach has been difficult due to COVID-19 and volunteering has halted? There are all kinds of ways to volunteer when you're in a tragedy. Even though we're in a very difficult time right now, every community is different, and I would encourage. I don't have any one fixed answer for this, but connect with the community and decide what your community's needs are and how you can meet the needs of your community, and your community is whatever you define it, right? Whether it's your fellow students, whether it's your school, it does not have to be the whole world. Your community can be scoped down to something else. As long as you're giving back to the extent possible, and it is in a meaningful way to your community, it matters. It matters. Lots of teams are doing virtual events. If you have a local food bank that you can safely and in a physically distanced manner go and volunteer at, and that is meaningful to your community, then you can do something like that. But we judge teams based on relativity to each other. There's really no absolute standard of we expect 5,000 people reached or anything like that. And it really depends on what is meaningful to your community. And as a Pacific Northwest judge, I know all the teams in Oregon, but I also know the communities that they live in. And something that's meaningful to one community may not be meaningful to another. So that's a tough one to answer. And I know my answer is it depends, but that's kind of the best answer I have.
I'd also like to jump in if I can.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things that I've seen is a lot of teams are actually taking this and doing some stuff because outreach has been difficult and volunteering has halted. Instead of just stopping or trying to do the same things, they've kind of pivoted. One of the teams that I've worked with in the Midwest, they've started creating an online series of like science demonstrations because you can't have access to classrooms anymore, but you can still like do baking soda reactions, videotape it for elementary school students. And there's a bunch of online curriculum that you can do for that. Or there's some teams that I've worked with that are doing, they're using their robotics equipment, like their mills, to make PPE for businesses. So there's a lot of opportunities that are still there. And also I'm not going to say it's become easier, but COVID has also definitely presented an opportunity to kind of branch out and try some different things that are unique to the situation.
It's a great answer, Jason. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question. What keywords, concepts are you looking for the students to say in the interviews and in the team executive summary? I kind of grouped them because, what is the best way to sell your team and make a positive impression? How can a team stand out? What stands out to you in judging about teams? We don't really have any keywords as such. If you're talking about PIT interviews and, interviews for the specific machine awards and team attributes awards, you can read up about the awards. And when you look at the award criteria, I'm not looking for, any kinds of keywords, but what stands out to me is if you make it easy for me to get the information I need. So there are teams who know who we are, and that's a big deal because there are teams who don't know who we are and they like kind of shy away from us when we approach them and they're like, why are you asking me questions, you weirdo? But if you even recognize me as a judge, that's a big deal because then you step forward and start answering questions. We usually have the I don't know you, I don't recognize you problem from rookie teams, but the other teams kind of have this judge, you need to answer her questions. It's quite funny. And we definitely don't penalize students for that because if they don't know who we are, the other teams need to help them. So preparation is useful. Some teams are small, so if the entire team is out on the field, we will come back to the pits if we see your pit is empty. If your team is large, like there are FRC teams that have 60 students on them, then usually it means we have people at the pits that we can we have students at the pits that we can interview. That makes it easier. How do you sell your team to the judge and make a positive impression? For the chairmen, I can tell you making a good impression is doing something that's meaningful for your community. And I'm going to give you an example here from Oregon, which brought tears to my eyes. And that point, it knocked my socks and shoes off. There's a team in rural Oregon, and they are, it's a school district that's economically disadvantaged. Almost all the students, I think all of them, in fact, are on the free and reduced lunch program. And so what they did for their community is they fundraised to pay bus drivers overtime, their school bus drivers overtime, so that students could attend their team and be dropped home safely, because they were the children of parents who did not have transportation, did not have, not in two-car families and things like that. And I read that line in their chairman's essay and I questioned them on it. And they did end up winning the award that year. Because remember this, your judges are not just judges, they are parents, they are mentors. And to me as a parent, I have a 7-year-old, that someone has actually thought of a way to bring my child home safely to me when I'm working 2 jobs, potentially. I don't have a car, potentially. I'm taking public transportation. And the only reason my child has this opportunity is because this team has decided in their rural poor area to say, we are going to make this happen. We will be inclusive and we will fundraise and pay the school bus drivers over time so that these students can be dropped home safely. That is meaningful to their community, and that is a huge impact to the students in their community. So it's something like that. I've also seen the opposite, in which a team builds tiny houses and wins chairmans, and the next year everybody's built tiny houses. But is that meaningful for your community? If you're in a very urban area and you have limited space and you have a large homeless population, maybe you have to justify why you did that project. But if you live in Beverly Hills, and I don't know, does tiny houses make any sense in that situation? I don't know. You just have to justify what you did and why. And in normal years, as I said, we judge for many years, we judge a region. We know those communities, we know those students, we know those teams. So having something that's meaningful to your community is really important. Does Jason or Chris, do you have anything to add?
I think you nailed it on the head that the best way to quote unquote sell your team is to make a positive impact on your community. Basically, we're looking to see, and I'm going to reduce it down. Obviously, it's a little bit more than that, but we're seeing how you add value. We're seeing why your team should be the one that other teams should aspire to become, basically, because whoever wins chairmans or these high-level awards is going to be who we say basically is a model of FIRST, or is a team we want others to emulate. So what do you have that you think that other teams could adapt, strive to, copy? Copy is the most sincere form of flattery, and something that makes you special. So if you can figure that out and you can get it across to the judges, that's all you really need.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah. For the machine awards, they're more concrete, and the other awards, they have very specific criteria. So, for team spirit, we used to have team spirit as a regular award. So if I'm in as a match observer, sitting and watching the matches, and we have teams that are really cheering and supporting not only their team but other teams, that makes a good impression. If you have a large team that's just like sitting around watching their phones when everybody else is participating, they're not cheering for their own team, they're not cheering for other teams, maybe not so high in team spirit. Those kinds of things. There are criteria for the award, and we look for those things. Okay. Submissions, last set of questions here. Do you like big notebook of the team, or more of a flyer or a brochure? When I'm judging machine awards, I take pictures of the machines because I see so many machines. I need a picture of the team, the robot, and your bumper with your number on it, so I know that I'm giving the award to the right team. A single page flyer is something I like. I'll take it and I'll read it offline, in my own time. This is when, we're doing regular pit interviews. Big notebooks, I don't have time to read it. I'll be very honest with you. You can show it to me saying, this is our engineering notebook and this is the process, but I don't want a copy of it. I'm not going to be able to read it. What sort of handouts should we have? I've appreciated handouts where you have a single page handout of a robot that says, this is our robot, a picture of the robot, and all the things, again, that you want us to know that your robot can do and what you're proud of, what are you really proud of. So, single pages of concise, relevant information is good. Books, I don't have time. I'll look at them in the pits so I can see that you've done it, but I don't want a copy of it. How should teams approach judging? Entire team or 2 or 3 representatives? I've seen it all. Again, large teams can have dedicated representatives to answer different sets of questions. Like I've gone in to ask, questions about a robot, and they're like, oh, that's a robot presentation team, and they'll bring a couple of students out to answer those questions. They'll have couple of other students to answer business questions. But a large team, which also brings you back to are you a successful business? You can recruit better if you're successful. So if you have a large team, you can do better in judging because you can have dedicated students to answer questions. But that being said, I don't give awards because you had a dedicated person answering questions. It's still the content that matters. So it depends on the team. If you have a small team, probably everybody pitches in to answer my questions. If you have a large team, there might be dedicated presenters. Yeah, so that brings us to what would the team notebooks have? Some teams use their notebooks to kind of show me their prototypes. Like, okay, this is an idea we tried. It's like a sketchbook, kind of like an engineering design book from FLL, something like that. Some of them notebooks have, CAD designs saying, okay, these are our old designs and this is how we iterated, or a process. This is our engineering process book. We have had teams show us books on their community investment projects. It's whatever you want to show us. And I will look at everything you show me in the pits, but I don't want large copies of everything, because if I interview 14 teams, I'll have a stack like this big and I can't go through it. It's not possible. Your team need not have one. No problem. It is not a requirement. Judging in the pits is very flexible. Different teams do very different things. All we're trying to do is get information. However we get the information, it doesn't matter. That's on us. We are the interviewers, and it's our job to ask the questions and get the information we need. I have had teams look at me and kind of shoo me away because they're too busy working on the robot. I would recommend not doing that. Don't shoo away your judges, because you do get points for awards, and the points can make the difference between you going to the next round and not going to the next round. In regular years, judged awards have points. Chairman's has 10 points. Engineering Inspiration has 8 points, and entrepreneurship and the rest of them have 5 points. One of the awards comes with a $5,000 grant. So answer the judges' questions. It's part of being an FRC team. And with only 2 minutes left, you can also ask your judges questions. We are professionals and we are here to answer your questions about what it's like to be, an engineer at Amazon, for example. So, yeah.
I'd also like to point out, in my experience, a lot of judges and even volunteers are FRC or FIRST alumni. So you might want to ask them about their experience, because they might have some tips to point out too.
Yeah.
Myself included.
Hi, this is Stacy from South Florida. One of the things that we kind of encourage our kids to do is networking, especially with judges. Do you take their business cards, or do you frown upon that, or do you think that's a good idea? Because they're trying to.
We cannot take information from minors. We cannot email minors. We cannot take any contact information from minors. At least that's what I've been told, and I've never done it.
Okay.
If I'm a mentor of a team, that's different, and I can communicate with the team that way. But as an official blue shirt judge, I don't communicate with students.
Yeah, we had a briefing on this world. So if the student proactively reaches out to the mentor, so if you ask for our information, that's allowed. But if a minor solicits information from a volunteer, we are not allowed to provide personal contact information.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, or accept, sorry.
Right. But we can't
provide
accept it.
Yeah. Yes.
I often encourage students to have their mentors email me. I'm totally fine with that because they're adults. So, I tell the students, ask your mentor all the questions, and then the mentor can email me, but I can't email you. All right, I guess we are on time, and thank you so much for attending our presentation. Please check out AmazonFutureEngineer.com. Lots of interesting and fun things happening there. And I hope this was useful. And again, if you have any questions and you are an adult mentor, I know some of the students are 18 years old, but I won't take their emails unless I'm their mentor. But please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to the Droids with more questions, and we can try answering them on email. And again, read the documents, follow the rules, and have a great time, and all the best to all of you. It's been a lot of fun for me, and I hope it's a lot of fun for you. All right. Thank you so much.